Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews on Friday, March 1st. Here we are, third month of the year. Only, what, 8 more to go until Christmas, right? 9 more. It's coming fast, man. Every year it's the same thing, faster and faster. Anyway, it looks like Hobie was first on the first game. Good job, Shane, and then he took off. Dan Griffiths flew in right behind Hobie. I saw it. It was close, man. It was by nose. Glenn Chia came in third. How you doing, Glenn? Glad you could make it. Dan Griffiths. We got Enrique Ivan Howard. Hello from Panama. How you doing, Enrique? Rob Amato is here. How you doing, Rob? Glad you could make it. And HB Jeff is here. That's it, huh? Quiet crowd tonight. Make sure you say hello in the chat so we know who's out there. So regarding the PilotJam week in review, we'll get started with that. Boy, we had a lot of flying and a lot of filming. And I don't know what the deal was. This was kind of a weekend where the camera and AV gear was problematic. We had some, I don't know, I think we'll have to work on it a little bit, but I think Fred was zoomed in a little too far. So there's a little more motion than normal on the flights. And then I don't know what the heck happened with my audio, but my audio was clipping big time. I think it's had to do with where I put my speaker or my microphone. But anyway, we powered through it and did the best we could and put up some material, a lot of flight footage. And there's going to be a video that'll post shortly after the PilotJam for another flight, fourth flight. We did 4 flight videos while we were there. We did the Sabre, we did the Dave's Maiden, we did the Laser Maiden, and then we did the 4th video, which is coming up. You have to keep an eye on the channel for that. So yeah, it was a busy week in terms of material, that's for sure. It started out with the Express ELRS Gyro. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then it went into that F86 Sabre first look. And I'll tell you something. There it is. There's the first look video right there for the F86. I think they did a really nice job on that plane. What I saw in that plane to me was an honest effort. And I know, like, you guys know I'm not a scale pilot. That's just not my thing. I don't care that much. It doesn't matter. I know, but I'm not criticizing those who do. I know there's a lot of guys out there who are really big into scale. And one of the comments I saw was, hey, get the sequencer right and I'll buy it. And I guess that means that he's not satisfied with the way the door sequencer works, I suppose. And that's fine. You know what I say, man, your money, your hobby. So if it doesn't make you happy, don't buy it. And if it does make you happy, then you're not wrong. So anyway, but outside of, details like that, I thought they just did a really nice job with some of the details on the plane. Like, for example, on the canopy, all that weathering they did, I've never seen a plug-and-play foamy put that kind of effort into the plane. I've seen that kind of effort on balsa, like some of that Black Horse stuff at Motion, the P47 and the Corsair. They put some effort into the weathering and trying to give them that look of realism, but I haven't seen it on an EPO plane. So I was very impressed with that. And then when I did the video, I was unaware that there were air brakes on the back. I didn't figure that out until I went to put the plane together. And when I put it together, I found the plastic panel where the screw went, and I pulled on the panel. I'm like, whoa, is it glued in, or what's the deal? So I pulled the panel out, and then I realized it was on a servo, and that's when it dawned on me it was an air brake. And even under that panel, they did some really nice job with detailing. A lot of it was a plastic part with that green zinc colored kind of coating, and they weathered it. It was impressive. I have to admit, I was very impressed with the effort that they made. But there's still areas, like look on the video right there, where they put the mechanical hinges in for the ailerons, but not on the flaps. Like, why? If you're going to go through all that effort and you're going to do the mechanical hinges, which is great, I'm glad to see them on the ailerons and the elevator. That's good. But if you're going to go through the effort, why not finish the job? Why not finish the job? So overall, I got to give the airplane some real thumbs up. Maybe there's room in there for a V2, and the V2, they can correct some of those issues, but I got to say it was pretty good. And then flight time, I think I got 4 minutes on that one. I probably could have got another 20 or 30 seconds, but when I do maidens on EDFs, I do not like to mess around with voltage. It's not funny. You can all of a sudden on an EDF, you can run out of voltage really, really fast. So, I don't like to fool around with that too much. I kind of take that kind of seriously. So 3.5 minutes on the first go, and then you measure it and get an idea. We're going to talk a little bit about voltage too, by the way. We are going to talk about that. So anyway, I thought they just did a nice job. It's a decent jet. Is it perfect? No, nothing in the world is perfect. But it's a good effort, and I thought they did a nice job, and I really did enjoy the presence in the sky. And the concept about the gyro, this is one of those airplanes where it does not require a gyro. It actually has wings like a P-51. By the way, if you didn't know, this was basically North American's successor to the P-51, which is why a lot of it looks similar design cues. But anyway, it doesn't have the same wing loading and Dutch roll and characteristics that you see in other airplanes that are more likely to need a gyro. So it flies a little bit more like a traditional plane. But I can tell you that on jets like this, having a gyro, you know, something like what we're going to talk about with Express LRS, wouldn't be a terrible idea, just to kind of smooth it out. That's all, just to kind of smooth it out. I'm not saying it's required. I mean, it's perfectly flyable without it. But if you're going to get a plane like this and keep it, I think a gyro on that plane would be a good investment. And I probably will put a gyro on this one. So anyway, that was it on the Sabre. So we did the first look video, which is what's playing there on the left. And then we did the maiden flight, which again, uneventful. Nice job. Next up was the Extreme Flight 78-inch extra NG RC plane. That was Dave's flight, right? That was Dave's flight. I don't know why there's a 7 in there. That looks like an error. Gotta get it together, John. There we go. So that was Dave's airplane, and he did a very nice job on the maiden. Now, the reason we called, you might say, well, that plane flew before. It's not really a maiden, but it was because he completely took it apart and made it his. You know, he took the motor off, he took the ESC off. You know, he made it his own plane. So it was a maiden because it was a ground up rebuild. He put his own servos, own controls in. I think the only thing he inherited from my build were the horns were glued in, and that was about it. Remember, the horizontal stabilizer detaches on that one, so even that wasn't pre-work by John. So anyway, and of course, the plane did beautifully, and we're really thrilled for Dave that he got a chance to get his hands on one of those planes. He's been looking for one of those 78-inch extreme flight planes for a long time, so I was really happy to see him finally see that dream come to reality. And of course, it's a beautiful plane. So that was good. And then next up, we had the laser, and boy, guys, the laser, I kind of gush on that one a little bit, but that plane, all I can say about the laser is that when I first got the 60-inch, it surprised me then. It was just one of those planes where I thought, well, it's different. I like the red, white, and blue color scheme, so I might give that one a try. And then when I got it and flew it, I thought, wow, it really made an impression. And of course, it hasn't let down getting into the slightly bigger airframe. So the laser is just, it's good. One thing I'll talk about, we'll get into comments a little later, but the laser has a tendency to do what the kids call wad up. And what that means is it'll get over on the lateral axis really fast. So if you want to do things like crankshafts and knife edge spins, it'll move around that lateral axis very quickly. So that's wadding up, and it's good. It's really good for doing those types of stunts, where the NG has got that longer, smoother tail moment. So it will do the maneuvers, but it takes a little bit more momentum, maybe a little more effort to get in. It doesn't wad up quite the same. So anyway, the laser, nice airplane. I'm just not surprised at that one. I am very happy I made the choice to make the change for the 67 over the 60. And with that said, that concludes my possession of 60-inch extreme flight planes. I don't have any more. That's not to say I won't get any more. It just says, at this point I'm out. So anyway, great airframe. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. And that one will be a fan favorite of mine. Like if I'm going to the field and I'm not filming and it's just me and I get to pick and take whatever I want, that laser will probably go quite a bit. I have to tell you though, the ELRS 300 is also really good. So anyway, it's fun. It's a good problem to have, right? It's a good problem to have. Now I can tell you that one of the big questions coming out of this latest round of 67-inch planes is the question that I keep getting asked now is, which one do I like the best? And I think there's an opportunity maybe to do a comparison of the 67-inch airframes that I have. But all I can say, guys, is they're all good. You're not going to go wrong with any of them. And then finally, the last video of the week is the PilotJam. So 6 videos this week, and there's technically going to be a 7th because I'm going to be posting something tonight before the night's over, but I'll include that in the count for next week. So a lot of video material on the channel for you guys. I hope you liked it. I hope you liked the hard work. Thanks to Fred and Dave for coming out and filming. And while we're not perfect, we do our best. And I appreciate you guys being patient about the video footage. I know it was a little shaky this time, but you know, it is what it is. There's limited options to fix it. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, let's see. I'll check the comments one more time and then we'll get moving. So Ben Papp is here. How you doing, Ben? I think I got Keith. If I didn't, Keith, how you doing? From the cold and windy Massachusetts. Anyway, glad you could make it, Keith. Philip Jang is here from Down Under. How you doing, Philip? And Four Eyes is here. How you doing, Four Eyes? Patrick Henry says hello. Spin Launch Glide and finally back for a Pilot Jam. Glad you made it, buddy. James Jones says hi there. How you doing, James? Michael Raka says hi from Buffalo, New York. Ooh, it's cold up there still? I bet it is. Love the laser, says James. Yeah, the laser is really good. It is such a good airframe. I can get it to do everything. I could get it to do everything. And the looks department is really good. I know I talked about it during the video, but I don't know what it is. It's the white and that red. It's something about the red. It's got a really bright vibrancy in the sky. Like it's almost like it's backlit. It's crazy, but it's got a really cool color red on it. So anyway, Keith Blackwell says, good afternoon from snowy high Sierras. I heard you guys are in for like 12 feet of snow, right? Something ridiculous, right? I heard that today. Rob Amato says, I bought a Swift 2100 glider. I'm using a Radiolink AT9S Pro transmitter, R9DS receiver with a gyro. Is this a good setup? And what else could I get to make flying easier? A simulator. If you don't have a simulator, get one. We're going to talk about that. But everyone should have a sim. I just believe you should have a sim because if you can't get out to the field, you can practice at home. And, some people will come in and say, but it's not very realistic. And that's fine. I know it's not realistic. It's definitely not the same as flying the real plane. But what you do get out of it is muscle memory. And that's important. So that's why I like the sims. It's good to have a sim. But a gyro, gyro with auto level, that's not a bad place to start. Zeb says hi from China. How you doing? And then Rob says, I like that plane from Brooklyn. Okay. Brooklyn, New York. How about that? New Yorkers representing. All right. Let's get on to the material. That was the week in review. First up, we're going to talk a little bit about the gyro. So let's get into the gyro a little bit. So overhead camera, here we come. And the only thing I really wanted, I did a video, so I'm not going to go through the video on the gyro, but I did want to show you guys a couple of things. First off, I recommended in the video that you start with a higher pin count receiver like the Beta FPV 14 channel or the Radio Master 8 pin, because you do have to, on the Radio Master, you have to give up a couple of pins. You have to give up some PWM outputs for the SC. I always mess it up. SCL and SDA. Yeah, you have to give up a couple of pins for those. So you basically do a little bit of a remap in the software and you say, hey, that's no longer a PWM output. That's now SCL and SDA. Okay. So you do have to do a remap. One of the guys asked a question. He said, hey, what about using the UART pins on the back? And that's a valid question because that's one of the cool things about the system is you can do remaps. But what I can say is that it hasn't been sorted out yet. So I told you guys in the video, I got this pin out from Peter. Peter is one of the Edge developers, and he sorted out the pinout for the ER8, and that's why we're using those up front. But theoretically, you should be able to remap those pins. Maybe we can get a little help from the Express ELRS crew. Maybe they can help us out a little bit, but it would be nice if we could use those two pins, the RX and TX, as the SCL and SDA lines. That's a possibility. It just hadn't been sorted out as of the video. Keep in mind, this is breaking news, okay? Breaking news. So anyway, that's it on the Radio Master ER8. But I've never done a video on the Beta FPV, and I know some people have some concerns about quality, and I have no point of view there. So I have no opinion because I don't have any firsthand experience. All I know is that I've seen people talk about it, mention quality being problematic on Beta FPV stuff. So I'm going to leave that question alone because I don't have firsthand knowledge on it. But what I did want to share with you guys, I don't even know why I plugged that in. I'm going to unplug it and we're going to take a look at it up close. What I did want to share with you guys is some interesting concepts about this receiver that I actually really liked. All right. So first off, you may have noticed that I plugged in a USB-C right there on the side, and that USB-C powers the receiver, and it actually has like a built-in FTDI dongle. So when you connect this receiver to your computer, Express LRS Configurator sees it as a flashable device, and you can flash the firmware directly to the receiver without the need of a dongle. Kind of like that. I kind of like that. Now, Radiomaster did a nice job with their dongle and made it like cross receiver compatible. And it's really not challenging per se to do it, because you really just get the dongle out, plug that in, and plug a wire into the back of the receiver, and you're up and running the same way. But what I like about this one is no extra hardware required. So if, for example, I was at the field and I needed to make a change to my firmware and the Wi-Fi didn't work, I could just plug it into any old laptop. I wouldn't have to worry about whether or not I had a dongle. So I do kind of like that. I think that's a really nice feature. And I hope on these encased larger receivers, we start to see more of that. That would be, to me, a fantastic outcome. And then the other thing I wanted to show you about this one that I thought was actually very intriguing, if I wasn't clear enough in the video, right here on the side, on the port, on the side right there, there's a little port, and that is the SCL SDA line. So you don't lose any PWM pins when you plug this one in. You simply, the adapter comes in with the receiver, and you plug it in right there, SCL SDA, and it goes right to the gyro and it works. So I thought that was actually a really nice feature. It's thoughtful. I didn't realize this receiver had those capabilities back when they first put it out, because I was just using ER6s, EPW6s. I never even bothered to pick one of these up. I just figured, I got Radiomaster stuff, it's fine. But having seen some of the scalable capacity, or not, I shouldn't say scalable, that's the wrong phrase. Having seen some of the external connectivity options on here, I like it. I like the SCL connectivity. I like the USB connectivity. And then one other thing that is a little bit alarming maybe is that when I plug this into my computer, so I'll just plug that in, you'll see a connection on the receiver in just a moment. And so I've got my radio connected now, right? So check this out. If you weren't aware, watch this. You see the ailerons moving? The only thing powering that is the USB-C. I don't have a BEC on this. It's just coming from the USB-C. So for doing desktop setups, like with your RCVR1, link in the description if you want to get one of these. By the way, I've been selling these on my Etsy store, and people have been taking them. So go get one if you want to do a setup like this. But anyway, just to give you an idea, the USB cable is powering the receiver, and it's providing power to the servos, which is, I don't know how I feel about that. It's a little scary because these are not high amperage devices, but I'm also not putting a high amperage load on this on the desk either. So just keep it in mind, but it's kind of an interesting feature. So anyway, that's the gyro setup that I'm going to test first. I'll probably test the ER8 as well. I don't mean to put them in any kind of order, but I'll be trying this one and I'll be trying this one. Okay, that's the statement I want to make. And then in case you missed the video, I'll just show you real quick. I put the transmitter in my stabilize mode, and then I'll bring the model in so you can see it. So I'll just roll the receiver. I'm just going to roll it. And when I do that, you see the ailerons moving when I roll, and then I'll roll the other way. And then if I pitch, you can see the change in pitch on the model there. So that's the gyro setup, the Express LRS gyro setup that we talked about last week in the video. So very cool stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a little deeper look. This is the PilotJam. This is where we get into little details like that. We spend a little time getting under the covers and looking at these kinds of details. But yeah, that's a nice little detail. USB-C and the input ports, the SCL SDA input ports on the side, and of course you got 14 channels too. So yeah, that's not bad. I'm kind of interested in that, and it's priced competitively, $35, I think. That's what they're looking for on this one. Okay. That's it on the gyro. Let's get back to the desktop, and we will take a look and see what's going on in terms of questions, and then we will move on to the next subject. Whoops, that got a little oversized there. All right, let's see. North 49 RC is here. How you doing, Chris? Glad you can make it. HB Jeff, if you solder to the SCL SDA, do you still lose the 7 and 8? So I checked with Radio Master about this, Jeff, and the only accessible place on the ER8 for SCL and SDA is on the MCU header itself, and I'm not going to solder there. That's way too fine for my skills. So I wouldn't do it there. Chris says, does SDL SCA hook up to the compass, to hook up the compass in the GPS? Usually, yes. Usually SDL and SCA inputs are used for a compass. That's true. That's a true statement. Where the GPS itself kind of depends, though. It depends. Because GPSs, they'll tend to use UARTs. They'll use a UART in and out. So compasses, though, by themselves, yeah, they'll use SDL, SCA. Okay, I don't see any other questions there. So next thing I want to do is get into EdgeTX 2.10 release candidate 1. And you might say, wait a minute, what? Well, okay. So I'm going to bring up a browser here just a minute. Let me get my browser and we're going to take a look. What I wanted to show you guys on the browser is that, let's see, I have that bookmarked, EdgeTX GitHub. So here we go. Let's just take a look at this. So I don't know yet when it's coming, although it feels like it's coming quite soon. Okay, it feels like it's coming quite soon. So let's take a look. And here's why I say that. So you look at releases, a couple of different things have happened in the release section. The first one is they added 2.9.4 to the bug report picker. And one thing they did, I posted this in Discord, they also said they bumped the revision number from 2.9.10 to 2.9.11. So when they do that, it feels like we're getting really, really close. It also looks like if you pay attention to the GitHub and the issues and the pull requests, it does look like 2.10 is starting to get quiet. So that kind of tells me it feels like we're getting very close. Again, don't know when it's going to happen yet. I wish I could tell you guys, but you know, like I said before, and so many times, we don't pressure. We'll just wait. But the bigger reason that I wanted to talk about this is this. Let me go into the overhead camera here. During the flying this weekend, now I'm going to be careful here and say I don't have any evidence of what happened, but I do want to show you guys something. During the flying this weekend, after one of the flights on the laser, I showed my post-flight screen. My post-flight summary screen, which is right here. And in that post-flight summary screen, let's see, can I turn this down? I got to turn the brightness down for you guys. Maybe. Hold on. Let me turn the brightness down. Apparently I turn off my my brightness knob. So let's see, brightness. Do I have it in here? Bright, LS, right here. We'll enable that. That'll let me turn the brightness down so you guys can see. There you go. Now you're not getting blown out. Okay. So on my post-flight screen, I showed it and I said, oh, look, it never went above 10 milliwatts on power, which is kind of normal for Express ELRS. And then one of the comments that came back said, hey man, you had your T-Power, you had that set to T-Power minus. That's supposed to be T-Power plus. So right there, that little plus sign, he was not wrong about that. And what bothered me about that is, let me just show you real quick. And I'm not gaming the system. I'm just going to show you guys. So let me just show you a couple of other models. I'll show you the 78-inch NG, which, you know, I use my planes for templates all the time. So there's the NG, and on the NG, you can see that I have T-Power Plus right there. So you see that? T-Power Plus. And we'll look at the Sabre. Let's take a look at the Sabre. That's a relatively recent plane. So if we look at the Sabre, I'll bring up my post-flight screen and you can see I've got T-Power Plus right there. So the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure at what point in the game this T-Power flipped from plus to minus. I don't know. It could have been something I did. Sure. It certainly could have been, because I am constantly fiddling around with my radio, constantly. So I'm not blaming EdgeTX, but what I am saying is that when you go through these version numbers in Edge, it's probably the lesson in all this is to take a moment and just check your facts, right? Just check your facts. That's all I'm suggesting. So notice it's corrected now, T-Power Plus. And oh, by the way, my RQOI was flipped as well. I had RQLY plus and not minus in there. I don't know why. I don't know why. So again, I'm not blaming Edge. I'm not saying that something Edge did, it very likely could have been me, but I do know that in past revisions, in making upgrades to my radio, I've seen little weird things happen from time to time. Certainly migrating from OpenTX to EdgeTX, you lose all your widgets and you have to start over. So the reason I'm bringing this up now is because 2.10 is imminent. And when that hits, I know a lot of people are going to upgrade. I'm just going to encourage you, go back and check your details. Okay. Go back and check your widgets, check your settings, you know, give your radio a look through and make sure everything's working the way you expect it to. And that's just sound advice when we do upgrades. I mean, you kind of should be doing that kind of thing anyway. I don't know what caused it in my case, but since then I've gone back and looked everywhere I've got a post-flight screen. I haven't finished, but I started looking at all my models, and that's why I was able to come into the PilotJam tonight and tell you guys, like, hey, you know, when I bring this one up, the laser, when I bring up that post-flight screen, I can still see T-Power Plus. It's because I went and started checking. I started checking these things. Don't know how it got flipped, but it did. And that's kind of the nature of the hobby. You know, you gotta pay attention to these details. That's what it's about. In my case, I made a mistake. The good news was after it was said and done, I did go back into my log because I do log my information, and I checked my T-Power, and in the T-Power, I saw 2 bumps to 25 milliwatts for less than a half a second. Like it was just, you know, up and down really quick, and that was it. So it still was, you know, we'll say 99.9% accurate, but I was showing the wrong number. So that's the moral of the story. Okay, let's go back to the desktop. I'll take a look at comments and we'll see what's next. I'm so ready for RC1, so many changes. Yeah, I know. And I know some people have been flying it too. Some people have been flying the nightly version, the 2.10 nightly. I know that. Getting old, John. I know, man. You drop packets from time to time. And that's just, you know what it is? You get comfortable. That's the reality of it. It's not as much about getting old as getting comfortable. You just, you know, you make a template, you copy, everything else works. You move along, you make a few changes, and off you go. So that's really what it is. But yeah, you're not wrong. Dropping a few packets. You get older, man. You lose a step. That's just the nature of things. See, Craig says, true. I used to have my slider flip when upgrading versions. Yeah. See? Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Little oddities, right? Little weird little things like that show up. Like, what if they add a sensor or a control that wasn't in the pick list before? You know, sometimes just causes weird stuff. You know, I've done things like rediscover telemetry sensors, and all of my telemetry got blown up because the sensors are not discovered in the same order. I've seen that happen too. Haha, it's true because I went backwards and worked correctly. It was my pot slider warnings. Yeah, there you go. So you get the idea. That's all I'm talking about, right? Is just check your work. That's all I'm suggesting. Just check your work. Again, I'm not blaming Edge for anything. I'm just saying these things happen. You know, things get a little sideways from time to time, and we do need to check our work. Okay, that's it for that. We're going to move on. Okay, RC3D. So this is a little segment that I've been doing for a couple weeks now. And the idea behind RC3D is to give you guys a look at 3D prints that I use in the hobby. And you might say, John, this is a radio control channel. Why are we talking about 3D printing in radio control? And it's because kapow. Like, look at that. By the way, this model, if you don't have a 3D printer, you can buy this on my Etsy store. If you do have a 3D printer, the STL is available on my Discord and you can download it. No commercial use. So if you have a YouTube channel, don't use it on your YouTube channel, but don't sell it. You know, that's not okay. But if for personal use, you can download it, print it, and use it. So, or if you don't have a printer, you can go to my Etsy store and buy one from my Etsy store. But there's one example of a 3D print. Here's another one that I actually also just put in my Etsy store. This is one of my all-time favorites. And the reason I love this one is because it's so simple. So this is a quad hanger. And what I do with the quad hanger, you put it around the motor like that, and you hang your quad up in your closet, just like that. And I have all my quads hanging up in my closet. There's my arm, just like that. All my quads hang up in the closet, and that makes them nice and compact. They're nice and safe, off the ground. Cats can't get to them, and it's convenient. And if I want to get one off the hanger, I just do that. It pops out. Now, some of the bigger motors, like the 40, I forget what size. It's like a 21XX motor. They will actually fill out the entirety of that hook. But it still works. You just basically... You put it up here like that around the shaft, and then you lay it down over the motor and it does the same job. So it's just a really convenient thing. 3D printed quad hangers. These are also in my Etsy store for a few dollars if you want to get some of those. So one of my favorite, like very cool designs. Simple, elegant, works great, solves a real problem, helps keep everything nice and organized. Definitely one of my favorites. Okay. Next up are these little guys. Now, some of you guys might have seen these before. So I know some of you have not, but these are indicators. So what I have here, this is an XT90 cover, and you can also print these in XT60. So here's the XT60. And the way I use red is an indicator that it's hot. So red is hot, right? We always indicate red is hot. So to me, red is hot. That means fully charged. This thing is hot. It's ready to go. So what happens when I'm at the field, I put my batteries on the charger and I'm always charging at the field. When a battery comes off the charger, I stick one of these caps right there on the end. And now I know that that battery is ready for flight. So that's how I kind of keep my batteries organized at the field. Just use a little indicator like that. These are 3D printed. You get these on Thingiverse, you download them, you can print as many as you want. You can print them in whatever color you want. If you don't want to use red, you want to use green for go, print it in green. You can do whatever makes you happy. So a couple little XT connectors, XT60, XT90, very cool little feature. And I did show these grips before, these grips I found on the web as well. And the idea behind the grips is you pinch those and they give you a nice solid grip on your XT90 while you separate, whether you're connected to an ESC or a battery cover like this, whatever. Or if you're taking it out of your charger, you pop that out. So nice little grip there. I just showed those a few weeks ago. So little plastic prints, 3D prints for your batteries. It helps, man. Every little bit helps. It helps keep you honest. All right, then the last thing I've got for tonight on RC3D is on my DJI goggles, I found this little battery cup for the battery. Now, I don't know why DJI doesn't include a strap that has a pocket built in for the battery, but it doesn't. At least on this version of goggles, it doesn't. That things may have changed, but again, this is ideation, right? Maybe you have a different set of goggles where something like this would be very useful. But it's just a simple little battery tray for your battery. How cool is that? You might say, well, what are those little ears for? They prevent the battery tray from sliding off. So they capture the tray and they don't let it slide out of that Velcro. It stays on the band that way. So the battery sits into this tray. You put the Velcro around it, and now here you go. You've got a battery hanging off the back of your strap, your head strap, and it's all contained right there on your goggles. And then the last part I'll show you on these goggles is a little cable organizer. That's another 3D print right there. Silly little 3D print, but what it does, it keeps tension off of the wires going into your BDI adapter if you're using those. So just a little strain management 3D print that you can get out there on the web as well. And then here's the other one that goes into the goggle itself, and it does strain relief on that one as well. So isn't that nice? Nice little strain relief mechanism for your goggles. I thought that was very cool. 3D printed. 3D print, man. I love 3D printing. It's a great accessory to the hobby, or a great capability to have in the hobby. And I mentioned it to you guys that I look at 3D printing and use 3D printing all the time. And I'm not kidding, man. I use it all the time. If you don't have a 3D printer and your budget allows you to get one, I highly suggest looking into it if you're into radio control. It is definitely a very cool capability to have. All right, we'll go back to the desktop and I'll take a look at comments and then we'll get moving here. Let's see. I call out my telemetry at the end of every flight so I don't have to look at the screen post-flight. Okay, I'm going to show you that too. We're going to talk about that. Let's see. That's why I still have a mullet. Okay, Chris has a mullet. Bill's here. How you doing, Bill? Glad you can make it. I just got some 3D printed whistle bombs waiting for good weather. Oh, cool. That'd be fun. Whistle bombs, huh? Nice. Looks like a plane bay that hasn't been born yet. All right. Those are nice 3Ds. Very handy. Yeah, very handy. Okay. So let's see what else we got here. That's why I still have a mullet, 3D printed whistle bombs. There's something else. I still have a slider. Went backwards. Okay. All right. We'll move on. RealFlight Evolution VR. Okay. You guys, if you follow my channel, you know I've got it's I guess the best way to put it, it's kind of a situation with Horizon. I think they're highly overpriced. Well, I've been flying RealFlight 7.5 for, I don't know, 7 years, I guess. Whenever, it wasn't too long after it came out. So I guess it's around 7 years. I mean, actually, no, I got to be honest. It's more like 9 years. I think it's 9 years. I think I got that around 2015. So yeah, probably about 9 years. RealFlight 7.5. I've had it for about 9 years, give or take a year. And that one is the one that came with the little interlink controller. It had a CD, you had to put it in your computer and install it. And you had to put in the registration key. You had to use your interlink controller to connect, but it worked. You know, for flying fixed wing, I think RealFlight, even then, is better than most fixed wing simulators you can get today. So it's been a long time, and I finally decided to open the wallet, and I bought a copy of RealFlight Evolution. And I'm going to give you the good and the bad, okay? Let's cover the bad first. The bad is that visually speaking, RealFlight Evolution looks almost identical to 7.5. I was so beyond disappointed and offended that the graphic makeup of that software looks exactly like it did 7 years ago, which to me, that's just criminal, man. That's milking. There's no effort. That's no effort. That's zero effort. And that's one of the things that chaps my hide about that company is that, you know, they stick you for $100 for the upgrade. If you already have 7.5 and you want to upgrade, it's $100. Now, let me tell you what you get for that $100, okay? The first thing, let's talk about the pros now. To be fair, let's talk about pros. The first thing you get for the $100 is that you can use your own radio. So it now accepts USB dongles, joysticks, you know, whatever. You can use your own radio. And I did configure my Radio Master to work. And what I like about that is all my sticks are in the same place they are as when I actually go flying. I get the same feel on my radio, same stick, you know, tension and movement, controls. All my switches are in the same spot. So there is an upside, you know, an advantage to that over that crappy little interlink controller they have. Okay, so that's pro number one. You can use your own radio, and it does work with the TX16S. Okay, that's pro number one. Pro number two, it supports VR. So in what that means, if you don't know what VR means, virtual reality, you can get a set of goggles. They don't look completely different from these, to be honest with you. They're just goggles like this. And you put them on your head and the goggles cover your eyes. And in the Quest 2 goggles, you can have them work with your desktop wirelessly. So you can have your goggles connect to your desktop wirelessly, and then you can do RealFlight Evolution in VR mode. And what I would say in VR mode, when you actually get it in the actual VR mode, it literally is like you're standing at the field because it tracks your head. Wherever you move your head, it's just like standing outside looking at your airplane. So I thought that was a pro, right? Because it actually does work. It was functional. It works. So I have to give them that one. Although that said, I have decent computer hardware. Like I have Wi-Fi 6. I've got a good CPU, good graphics card. I still saw some jittery behavior. And I'm not sure if that's a fault of the VR or if it's a fault of RealFlight Evolution, but frankly, I don't care. For the money, for the $100 they get you for to upgrade, that should be resolved, should be fixed. Okay. So that's my attitude about that. So and then there's one other benefit, and that's that it's Steam. So if you're not familiar with Steam, the idea behind Steam is that Steam acts as it's almost like a license manager, like an app store. You know, if you bought an app some time ago and you formatted your phone, got a new phone, and then you decided, hey, I'm going to go through my app store and look at my prior purchases. If you see an app that you bought a long time ago and you say, oh, I want that app back on my phone again, you can install it. And that's what Steam does for you. You no longer have to be worried about physical media. So you don't have to worry about where's that stupid CD. You don't have to do that anymore. And you don't have to worry about your license key. That's all managed on Steam. So that's an advantage because now I'm no longer worried about physical media. I'm no longer worried about where's that stupid key. And no matter where I am, what computer I'm on, if I log in with my account on Steam, I can pull the software down and use it. So I do think there are some advantages. Okay, I want to be completely fair and objective about this, so I'm not just breaking their chops. But that said, those are $25 upgrades, not $100, right? That's the problem. If in retrospect, if I could assess a value to what I would pay for those upgrades, I'd say $25. So fine, I get a little VR tool. That's cool. I can use my own radio. That actually saves them money because they're no longer shipping a radio. And by the way, it's 2024. So that makes sense to me. And the VR, I would give them a little bit of money for the VR and say, well, they definitely did some development work there. But as far as the rest of it goes, highly disappointing that the graphics, the sound, and it's not even fully integrated. In order to get to all the settings, you have to turn on the legacy menu so you can go back to the old way of editing your airplane. So I don't know, man. It's just, I just wanted to share with you. Number one, if you want to do VR, it works. You need RealFlight Evolution. And number two, I'm a little disappointed that they're sticking us for $100. But you know what? I got to be honest. That just fits their MO. It really does. It really does. I think they overcharge people for everything, and RealFlight Evolution is no exception. I just feel like it's overcharged. Craig says, I still fly RealFlight 7. Yeah. I mean, I had RealFlight 7 for a long time. I just finally decided I really wanted to try the VR thing just to get an eye on it. And I really, really wanted to fly with my radio instead of that crappy little interlink controller that they give you. So that was it. So that's it. That's my story on RealFlight Evolution. I think it's highly overpriced for what you get, but if you want, and yeah, there's like almost no consideration for the fact that I already owned a copy. They'll say, well, but John, you skipped 4 different versions. Fine. Yeah. But I don't get any credit at all for the fact that I already paid them $100. Apparently not. That doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. So yeah, well, it'll be another 7 years before I upgrade again. So that's that. That really soured me on upgrades for that software. That's for sure. All right, next we have an interesting topic. I wanted to spend a few minutes on this idea of kit versus ARF versus PNP. And the reason for this is because I saw a lot of interesting comments throughout the week. Not the least of which was one guy left a comment on the laser, the RXR version of the laser. He goes, the price seems a little steep, but I guess not really when you consider what you get for it. And I can tell you guys that when I first heard that Extreme Flight was doing receiver ready plug and play models, I sat with a scratch pad and I added it up on my own. And I said, those need to come in right around $1,000. And lo and behold, that's what they did. They came in right at that price point for a 60 inch. That's where they came in, right at $999. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's one thing to look at a plane and go, okay, that airplane is $350, $395, fine. You know, I'll pay that. And then you go look at the plug and play and you say, wait a minute, now it's all the way up at $1,000. What's the deal? If you were to go out and pick the kit, or not the kit, the ARF version of any of those 60-inch planes, and then go out and price the hardware independently. And I'm not talking about using generic, like cheap Emax servos, or cheap, non-branded motors that you don't really know how they're going to perform, or generic ESCs off of Amazon. I'm talking about using known servos because you are flying a 3D plane. I'm talking about using quality motors like Sunny Sky, and known entity ESCs like, Hobby Wings or Yeps or, whatever you guys are into, the ZTW Mantis G2s, the AM116s, whatever, the Scorpions, whatever you're into in terms of your ESC. But I'm talking about decent known quality hardware. And then you compare it against the price of the PFP. I'd love to hear in comments what you come up with. I'd love to hear that in the comments after the video posts, if you go out and price it and tell me what you came up with if you sourced it on your own. Now, with that out of the way, the other thing that I wanted to spend just a minute talking about is I've had this realization over the last couple of years. And that's that first things first in the hobby. Well, look at what I have just on my desk. Look what I have on my desk. Let's spend a second at just what I have on my desk. So I've got my fixed wing radio. I've got my fixed wing, model that I do setups on. I've got my quad, and only a few feet away, right over there, I've got a closet full of helicopters. Okay. So when it comes to the hobby, we tend to take different pathways. We look into FPV, fixed wing FPV, long range FPV, line of sight flying, warbirds, scale, 3D, helicopters, scale, 3D, sport, FPV with quads, line of sight, quad racing, FPV long distance, freestyle, right? So there are all these different pathways in the hobby, all kinds of different pathways you can explore. And what dawned on me in looking at the comments and watching my Discord over the past couple of years is that it really is incumbent on all of us to just embrace it. It's all radio control at the end of the day, and it's all toys. They're toys, right? This is a toy. It's a toy. Sure, it's an elaborate toy, but it's a toy. So what I've noticed is that people get really animated about this concept of kit versus ARF versus PMP. And I've realized that there's differing interests. So for example, some people are what I would call modelers. And the modelers, for them, a big chunk of the hobby is modeling. It's doing the assembly. It's cutting the wood, molding their canopy, gluing it together, making sure everything's straight and measured, bolting everything up and making sure that Loctite's on there, putting the shrink covering on, making the pattern, and doing all the stuff that goes with putting it together. That's one of these avenues in the hobby. No different than somebody who might take the fixed wing avenue or the quad avenue, right? It's just a different interest. Then there's the ARF crew. And in that group, they're like, well, I'll take the model assembled. I'm okay with that, but I'm going to put all my stuff in it. And that was me for a long time, mainly because I was disappointed in the quality of the PMP. Like I get these PMPs and they didn't have the power. They didn't have the battery. They didn't have the ESC. They didn't have a very good prop. The landing gear was crap. There was always something. The servos were generic and not very good. So that was me for a long time. I said, well, I'll take the ARF because I don't really care about building it, but I'll put it together myself. And then the last model or arrangement is the plug and play or the receiver ready. And in the receiver ready version or the plug and play model, then you have to kind of take what they give you in terms of hardware. And again, I've said for me, historically, this has been a touchy situation. Now, as a review channel, I run into this quite a bit. So if a vendor wants to send me a plane for review, I tell them, fine, I'll do it. But I don't agree to an outcome, and I don't agree to have my videos previewed before I upload them. Everybody gets to see my videos at the same time, including the sponsor. So that's the deal. And I've actually had sponsors say no to that. I've had sponsors say, no, we need to see your video first. And I'm like, nope, we're done. We're done talking. I won't do it. I absolutely will not do that. I won't give up the rights to my videos. My videos are mine. And good, bad, or indifferent. I'm going to tell you guys the truth. So at the end of the day, when it comes to PMPs, I've always been walking this, this edge of, is it sufficient to do the job? Because that's my rule. Do what you say you're going to do. Or is it not sufficient to do the job? And then, whether or not I choose to buy a PMP, usually I would default to ARFs. And what changed that was Extreme Flight. Extreme Flight changed that for me because they look at that plane. That's a plug and play. That's a receiver ready plane. And they use good equipment. They use known servos, known ESCs, known motors, known props. They test that equipment out before they send it out. And then you get a plane that works and performs the way that thing performs. Now, I'm not suggesting that their servos are all flawless. I'm not, because I know for a fact some people have had problems with the servos. I get it. I'm not saying their motors are all going to be flawless. They're not. Again, the world's not perfect. What I can say is I believe they made an honest effort in making sure the equipment in those planes is set appropriately. Like it's good equipment for the plane that we're going to be flying. So let's close the story out by saying, look, there's a lot of pathways in the hobby. There's fixed wing, there's quads, there's helicopters, there's line of sight. There's all these different ways you can enjoy the hobby. And likewise, when it comes to how your planes or your models go together, there are also different ways you can enjoy the hobby. Some people like to be modelers. That's how they identify, and that's cool. That's fine. Some people don't want anything to do with it. They're just like, give me the plane, I'll go fly. Think about race car drivers. You know, if you think of a race car team, you get the mechanics who put the car together and you get the guy who drives it. They're rarely the same person, right? They're always a different personality. Like somebody wants to go 200 miles an hour with their hair on fire. And then there's another guy who wants to make sure that that micrometer is exactly set right. And that ring gap clearance is exactly 90 degrees and it's set exact. That's what they're into. And that's what we have to understand. And what I would encourage is just embrace it all, man. If you see people who are builders, great. You see people who are flyers, great. Let's not get too judgy about it. Cause I tell you, I've seen that too much. I've seen it. I don't like it. However you enjoy the hobby, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. How do you enjoy the hobby? If you enjoy it by building it, you're right. If you enjoy it by flying it, you're right. See what I mean? Your money, your hobby. That's all I'm saying. So just keep that in mind. A lot of comments on that this week. I saw a lot of commentary on that this week. Augered in says, I used to be a modeler, built nearly all SIG kits, but burned out. Love Ready to Fly. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's not, I even actually do kind of like to build a little bit, but what I don't like dealing with is the mess, man. I'm like OCD about stuff. Things have to be tidy and clean and organized. And I have a problem building balsa because it's anything but that. Craig says, I love to build as much as I love to fly. See, you're with that 50-50 camp, right? 1 foot in both camps. You're a builder and a flyer, right? And that's fine. That's fine. That's nothing wrong with that. If it works for you, you're right. Eventually you get over crashing. Most of the time you're flying too low for your skill level. Yeah. Well, that's something I need to break the seal on and start flying lower and lower. I got to get these airplanes down lower. I love them though, and I don't want to crash them. That's why I fly high. Zeb says, for a couple extra bucks, I definitely belong to the ARF team. Best compromise between money and performance to me. Yeah, there you go. See what I mean? Everyone's going to have a different point of view. And what I would encourage us all to do is not be judgy about it, man. It's not for you to say if somebody doesn't build it. This is like, you know, the car guys who show up at the car shows. They'll spend $100 grand on a hot rod. And then they pull up next to the guy who says built, not bought. You know, it's kind of like that. I don't think we need to be that judgmental about it. You know, it's just not. Now, if you showed up in that $100,000 car and represented it as something you did, that's not cool. I don't like that at all. But, you know, if you say, hey, does everyone buy a Ferrari? Did you buy your house? You know, did you buy your motorcycle? Did you buy your watch? You see what I mean? It's just what matters to you, right? And if you're happy, that's all that counts. So let's just not be critical to people about it. Same thing with pilots. I watched a guy this weekend. He got his airplane out. I think he was flying. I'm not going to say what airplane because I don't want to say who it was. But he got his airplane out and he flew around circle after circle after circle after circle. And then he landed and he went away. And I thought, okay, you know, if that makes him happy, that's all that matters, right? It's a journey. RC is a journey. And, you know, wherever you are in the journey, you're going to be at a certain point in time. You're going to have a certain set of interests, and that's okay. And that's all I'm trying to say. Let's get over this whole, you know, build versus buy, Ford versus Chevy argumentative stuff, and just embrace it for what it is. It's a hobby. They're toys. We're just grown men having a little fun. That's all. All right, let's see. Did you get messy with that Twisted Hobby plane? Oh, yeah. Bill, Twisted Hobby planes are nasty messy, man. You're going to get some rubber gloves or something. You're going to have a mess on your hands building that one. North 49 RC says, flying something you spend 6 months on is an adrenaline. Yeah, see, there you go. There you go. And for me, I've done that. I know that experience where you spend months building it and that first time you fly it. Absolutely. And there's a sense of pride that comes with it too. You know, if you built it and it works and you built it from a pile of sticks, yeah, that's good. I get it. Craig says, I'm not a fan of getting an ARF that has to have a bunch of work done before it's flight worthy, aka plastic servos, battery. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's, by the way, it's one of the reasons I spend most of my, you know, energy on extreme flight type planes, because you don't normally fix problems like that. So I'm loud and clear on that one. Robert says, back in the day, I got hammered on the best wine and the cheapest homemade whiskey. Okay. Mr. Skyrider says, I'm all that you are saying. You're all the above, huh? Okay. All right. I think that's it on the comments. So that was a fun topic. I just wanted to spend a minute on that because, yeah, it's community, right? Let's just be a community. Embrace everybody. Everybody's welcome. It doesn't matter. You want to fly quads or airplanes, you want to fly in a circle, it's all good, man. Whatever works for you. It's all good. It's about community, guys. That's the point. It's a community. That's the point. All right, let's move on to the next topic, which is Q&A. Okay, we can do that. Q&A, Blackboard. Here we go. Look at that. What? Why? It hates me. QView. Why are you like you are? Why are you the way you are? Isn't that a Michael Scott thing? I sized all this before we started tonight. I don't know why it moves. Okay, question number 1. This came from Enzo Boomin. That's kind of a funny name. Cute Nick. What if I don't have a backup? Yeah. Well, let's say 2.10 is coming, guys, and back up your stuff. Okay. Don't just be a promiscuous flasher. That was actually pretty good. I made that up. Don't just be a promiscuous flasher. How about that? Right on the spot. See, that's the way I roll. Back your stuff up first. Okay. Back up your stuff, back up your SD card, because that way if something goes wrong, it's easy to revert. So back up your stuff. Now, that said, if you don't have a backup, I think what I would recommend easily to this person is go use buddy.edgetx.org, because Buddy will restore your card for you. And if you're not doing backups, that tells me that you're a beginner user, and Buddy is probably your best bet. So I would say go use buddy.edgetx.org, and that will take care of reinstalling the SD card content you need on your radio for you. Okay. Okay. So that's that. Let's take a look at the next one. Question number 2. This is from Lars. Oh my gosh. Lars with the name Petter. What is that? Petter Eliasson? Lars Petter Eliasson 8410. Okay. Nice video on plane. How do you set up the screen on the TX16S at 1135? I told you guys we were going to talk about that, and we did. We talked about that, and I put a link in the description for you if you're not aware. But on all of my models now, if you weren't aware of this, here's what inspired this. I got out of my car one time, and when I got out of the car and turned the key off, I noticed that my dashboard had a post-drive summary screen on it. And I thought, man, that's really clever. So I looked at it, and it had information about how long was my trip, how much, what was my mileage during the trip, how long did it take me, how many miles was it, all that stuff. And I thought, man, that's really cool. I should do that on the radio. So now on every one of my airplanes, I have a post-flight summary screen, so that when I disarm the plane after flying, what happens is I go through this rotation. Oops. There's my first screen. So that's screen number 1 when I first set up. When I get ready to take off, I go to this screen that shows my power and my time. And then after I land, I get this screen, and it's all automatic. So I have a video in the description if you'd like to see how to do that. All you've got to do is set up a telemetry screen. And if you want to take a look at it, I'll show you what the screen looks like. It looks like that. So I'm using that layout. And then all I do is you go in and under setup widgets, and I put one widget in each one of these little boxes. I put in the things that I want to see. That's how I do it. Okay. And then the video will explain the logic on how I do the screen switching, so that at the end of every flight, when I disarm the plane, I get this little summary screen to tell me, here's how your airplane performed. Okay. So check that out if you haven't seen it yet. It's actually a pretty cool little tool, and that was inspired by a car. Okay, let's see here. Next question. This is from Titus Andrew. He says, how big of a card do I need for 15 models? This is another one. They're so cute when they're new. The stock card will be fine. 256 megabytes will be fine. He says, I'm also pulling a syntax error while trying to make a model with my Zorro. Any clue why? Okay, so first off, I don't think the Zorro has a wizard, does it? I don't think it does. So my response to that one is get on Discord and ask there, because YouTube is a terrible platform to sort these problems out. But I would say that if you're pulling a syntax error while trying to make a model with my Zorro, I really don't understand that, because I don't think it has a wizard, and you shouldn't have a syntax error when you're actually creating a new model. So get on Discord for the answer on that one. And that'd be my answer to anybody who is looking for detailed assistance. Discord is the place, not YouTube. YouTube's terrible for it. get on Discord. Okay. Get on Discord. I'm not going to just engaging on YouTube for this kind of back and forth. It's just not worth it. It's a pain in the neck. Okay. JH1982. He says, trying to decide between, here we go. Trying to decide between the 67-inch laser, the Extra 260. Thoughts? I'm mostly an iMac type of flyer, minimal 3D, not good enough. Okay. This is what I mean. I'm getting this question more and more. I would say that the laser, to me, feels more like a flippy floppy plane. Like it's got a short, I think I should measure because I don't know. And I hate telling you guys, I hate representing something as fact when I haven't validated it as fact first. But I believe the laser has a shorter tail moment than the 260, I believe. Now that said, whether or not it's a shorter tail moment, I can tell you that the airframe design is such that the laser definitely is more flippy floppy on the lateral axis. Okay. Okay. So now whether or not the laser or the Extra 260, if you're more of an iMac style flyer, I would say probably the Extra 260. But that said, I would also encourage you to consider the 67-inch Skywing Extra NG if you're looking for a 67-inch airframe. Remember, I have the 85-inch version of that plane, and it flies beautifully. So if you're an iMac pilot, I would probably, and you want a 67-inch, I would also pay attention to that Skywing 67-inch Extra NG. That is a beautiful plane. And as you well know, I just flew and made into 78-inch NG, and I'm kind of hoping they come up with a 67-inch version of that same plane. That'd be another one I'd probably jump on instantly. That way, if I want to fly the Extra NG, I can bring the 67. If I want to fly the big NG and feel like, putting that much effort into it, then I can bring the 78 out. So 67-inch Extra NG Extreme Flight, you listening? That blue and white scheme, you listening? Hey, is this thing on? Is it on? I hope it's on. All right, number 6, Ruby. He says, here we go. I told you there were a lot of questions on this subject. I'll be honest, I'm lazy. I have many ARF planes ready to be assembled, but when I have time off, I'd rather be flying than assembling. See? I think the price is quite good for what you're getting. This is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of commentary I saw this week quite a bit. And that's why we had that little section. We talked about building, kits versus ARF versus PMP. So Ruby, I'm right there with you, man. Personally, with my free time, which is sparse, I'd rather be flying than building. Personally, that's just the way it is for me. So I'm in your camp on that one, brother. All right, number 7, RC Rotor Freak says, nice, John, flies great. Price is steep. Remember, we talked, right? It's steep, but then again, when it's all put together, well, almost very fantastic. What receiver did you go with? For me, it's always Express ELRS. So in this case, it was an ER6, but RC Rotor Freak, I'm right there with you, man. It seems on the surface a little steep, but when you add the parts up, I think you find out that it's at least competitive, okay? That's my belief on these planes. And then number 8, finally, Dave really needs an MAH sensor. So yeah, let's talk about that one a little bit. Dave, I can't even tell you guys. I know some of you probably understand it after watching Dave. Dave is a very detail-oriented guy, highly detail-oriented guy. And the fact that his timer was set for 8 minutes and on his first flight on his NG and he wound up dead sticking it in was surprising to me. But the thing is, Dave had the skill to be able, you saw the landing, right? He landed that thing off power better than a lot of people land on power. Okay. So he's got the skill to back it up. But when it comes to this comment about really needs an MAH sensor, first for me, I'm more about the voltage than I am about MAH. So I look for voltage, but the point was, let's get some telemetry involved. And that I have to agree with. And I've been trying to kind of push Dave into it a little bit, but I do like the concept of voltage monitoring or some kind of battery capacity monitoring. And I can tell you, I've got hardware on the way that's going to blow your mind when you see it. It's going to blow your mind when you see it because it's really cool tech and it's inbound. And I'm going to show it to you once I get it working. But yeah, telemetry, I think for me, here's what I would say and what I would encourage the developers, the ESC developers, even the protocol developers, is that we need to start seeing the ESCs talking to the receivers. That's got to be the next step because I frankly get tired of buying extra stuff and wiring extra stuff so that I can get things like voltage, and very simplistic voltage. It's limited to say 30 volts. I fly airplanes that need 50 volts. I want a 50 volt reading. I'd really like to see a 50 volt reading with 12 cells. That'd be really ideal. So I'm really kind of hoping, and you know, it's something that as I get the opportunity to do it, I'll push and hopefully be able to convince some of these manufacturers to start figuring out how we get telemetry off the ESC into the receiver. And when we do that, we get things like the battery pack voltage, right? Because we have the mains plugged into the ESC. We know what the main voltage is, and it's on the ESC. We can get things like current. We can get things like temperature. We can take these readings and see if we have a performance issue. So to me, this is the next step of the hobby. Now, all the quad guys are going to go, but John, I get all that stuff right now. All I got to do is hook up a ESC to a flight controller. I know about that, but I'm talking about fixed wing. And what I'm looking for is one single wire to go from the ESC into the receiver, so we get all the telemetry from the ESC directly into the receiver, and it shows up on our radio. That, to me, is the next step. So I think Philippe is right. I try and work on Dave, but you know, Dave's been using Futaba for a long time. He's comfortable with it. That's the bottom line. So whether or not he'll ever change, I don't know, but I'm with you on the concept that I do like to have at least that telemetry. I like the voltage telemetry, so no doubt about that. And I think that brings us back to number 1, which means we are at the end of the Q&A. All right, let's go back to the questions and comments and see what's going on in here, and then we will get moving. Let's see. Craig says, agree. If I build it, I'm happy for weeks after a successful maiden. Yep, that's right. Take the SD card to the library. No line. Yeah, they can maybe recover it, right? The flights widget is cool. Most people don't know about that widget and how to get it set. Yeah, I need to do that video again. Sometimes I do need to do that one again. I do a flight count video or flight count widget. If you guys aren't, I know most of the guys on the channel are, but you see how that flight count right there? That's a really cool widget. I use that all the time. I love that one. Now what I'd like to do is see the model selector sort based on flight count, right? That'd be cool. Okay, so yeah, that flight count widget, definitely a cool little gadget. Let's see. I love my flight history on Excel spreadsheet. I'll add notes to it all the time. There you go. Very nice. You know, I used to have an app on my phone that used to track battery cycles. Anyway, let's see. Just like Freddie and his OpenTX. Fred and his OpenTX, man, I tell you, that Freddie is never going to let that go. I think he's going to stay on OpenTX for good. Let's see. Mr. Skywriter says, absolutely telemetry. I love every bit of it. Yeah, I used to do all the telemetry. Now I really only worry about 2 really key bits of information. I want my voltage and I want my T-power or RQLY. But honestly, with Express LRS, I'm kind of not even really watching RQLY anymore. I used to watch it religiously. I do log it, but I don't watch it anymore. I really do pay attention to that T-power, which right there on the side video. And see, that's the T-power minus. That's the one I'm talking about, or T-power plus rather. No, T-power minus. So anyway, yeah. Spectrum receivers and ESC communicate through telemetry. Well, okay, there's that. Too bad you have to take out a second mortgage on your house to pay for the receivers. That's the downside. Okay, let's see. I think that's it for Q&A, and that brings us to what's coming up. Okay, in terms of what's coming up, I have another flight video for you that I'll be finishing up tonight, and I'll be posting that after the PilotJam sometime. So you can look forward to that. I also I will be flying this weekend, but I'll be on my own. Dave's occupied, Fred's occupied, so I'm just going to go out and hang out on my own, do a little flying, maybe take the laser out, maybe the ELRS, maybe the 78-inch NG. I don't know. I'll figure something out, but I'm going to bring some airplanes out, some of that new stuff, and get some more flights in and just spend some time enjoying those lovely airplanes. I really do enjoy these that laser, man. I don't know. That laser pulls on my heartstrings. It's just one of those planes. So I'll be doing that this weekend. And then I told you guys I have some hardware inbound that'll be surprising to you. And the other thing, the raw helicopter. I don't want you to think I forgot about that or shelved it. I have not. We're just waiting for certain things to happen. So until those certain things happen, I have to sit on my hands and wait. So we will be working on the raw helicopter. That is not shelved. That is coming back. And also the 16-channel ELRS receiver. The developer actually has his hardware. I sent it up to Canada for him. So he's got a couple pieces of that hardware. He's working on it, checking it out. We actually tested the gyro on it and it works. Wink, wink, nod, nod, gyro on the 16 channel receiver, right? Pretty cool, huh? So we're working on that, and that has not died either. That's just in a development process. That's all I can say about that one. So more to come on that. So in terms of what's coming up this week, I anticipate a fairly light week on the video because I'm not going to be doing anything on Saturday or Sunday in terms of flying. And then we have the work week. So I'll probably try and sneak, and I don't know if my hardware is going to make it. It's coming from overseas. So I don't know if it'll make it this week in time for me to do a video. I doubt it. So it's probably going to be a pretty light week on the videos this week if I get any done at all. But with that said, I do have another airframe sitting here that's still boxed, and that release date is coming up soon as well. So there's stuff out there. We're just kind of waiting for rules, right? There are rules, and we have to play by the rules. So I have to wait for the rules, and once the rules allow me to show, then I will show, and you guys will get some more videos. All right? All right. So that's what's coming up. I'm going to check comments one more time, and then we're going to take off. Flat Rat 3 says, hi, all, good to catch it live for once. Well, glad you made it, man. You used to be here a lot. We missed you. And then Robert says, hey, Flat Rat. All right. Well, listen, guys, that wraps it up. That's the Pilot Jam for March 1st, 2024. Hope you enjoyed the content. Hope you enjoyed all the flying. I know we had a great time with the flying. A lot of fun. And don't forget to keep an eye out for that video I've got coming up. It's interesting. We haven't done anything like that before, so hang tight. It'll be good. So that wraps up the Pilot Jam for tonight. I hope you guys have a fantastic night. And if the weather allows, make sure you get out there and fly something. That's all I have. Take it easy.